Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Wendy Yee.
And I'm Chris Yee.
Today we're taking a look at Stonespine Architects, which is from Thunderworks and is in their World of Ulos, which is...
Oh, it's named now.
It is.
I kept calling it the role player thing.
Yeah, it's from the folks who brought you Role Player and Cartographers, which are their two most popular games. And I think you would know that without me telling you if you've played those and played this, because while it's a different game, it has some similarities, which we'll talk about in a bit. You're building a dungeon, a 4x4 grid of a dungeon here, trying to meet a bunch of goals. Don't get too excited, though. It's not necessarily, you're not watching people run through your dungeon. You're just trying to place a well-laid dungeon to score points in various ways.
Architects is the right word here, yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Here's how it plays. In this game, players are going to be building a dungeon in front of them, and you're going to be building it one round at a time. So players are going to be drafting cards from their hand, and you can place them in any order you want here, and you'll put these cards down. And there's a couple things that you're looking for. Each dungeon has 4 different elements. This gives points. This has a treasure chest. These have traps, and they have different characters in them. And as the game goes by, you'll be able to even put tokens and other things into your dungeon. There's also money that you will get from the dungeon, plus money from the treasure chests at the end of a round, which will allow you to buy those tokens I just talked about. In the second round, you're going to be placing cards on top of the money like this, so you can see you're building this. But you're trying to build paths, because paths are how you're going to score points. So this is a pretty terrible, I just randomly put it out here, but this might be like this. So now this path connects to this room, which connects to this room, and you're going to be placing them down in such a way. So you'll notice some are rooms, some have this stone background. And a lot of this is going to matter, because at the beginning of the game, each player is going to get a card here that's going to show you this blueprint, and it's going to show you where your entrance goes and where your exit goes. And at the end of the game, you get 1 point for every card that connects to your entrance and 1 point for every card that connects to your exit. So you could get 2 points for every card if you play it right. You also get points for these, and then you're going to get points from other cards. So there is a goal card here that's in the middle of the table. This goal card, which will be placed at the beginning of the game, will say, for example here, have the fewest treasure chests in your dungeon. There's also going to be challenge cards over here. At the end of a round, after everyone has placed their 4 cards, players are going to take turns using the money that they spent, and you'll be spending that money, you don't get to keep it from round to round, to buy tokens here. So I could pay 8 to get these 2 tokens, or 4 to get this token. The more the more of these cards that will show up, and you're just drawing tokens randomly from the different shapes. In fact, some of the tokens are cool because they add secret passageways, so you can go from one spot to another spot and connect those dungeons. But when you pass in this round, you're done buying money, you can take one of these cards, you have to take one of these cards, and you'll have 3 of these cards after the first 3 rounds, and these will score you like this, for example, gives 3 reputation for each null in a single column of chambers in your dungeon. So if I set them up properly, I could get a lot of points from these cards. And so that's pretty much the game. You're going to spend 4 rounds drafting in each round. After the end of the first 3 rounds, you'll spend money for tokens and take these challenge cards. At the end of the game, you're going to get points based on this card, based on your challenge cards, based on things that connect to your entrance and your exit, the stars that are actually part of the things that you've gotten, and whoever has the most point, and your blueprint, the number of matching symbols you have on the cards, can get you up to 20 points, and whoever has the most is the winner. One thing I really liked about this game, other than, one thing I really liked about the game is just the ease of jumping into it. Like, I think I can teach this game so very fast, because I'm saying, you play the cards. There's not a lot of restrictions in playing cards. You just got to play them in a row. Then you play the next row, right? And you want to meet all these different scoring criteria, and people understand that. These tokens can go in an empty spot. People understand that. You're trying to have the most of whatever. The only thing that people is in between rounds bidding, you buy tokens and then you pass and you get a card. That's the only thing that's not super straightforward. I just thought it was a very easy game to teach.
I think as a player, because I agree, easy to teach. As a player, there's a little bit of that front load of like, oh, I need to figure out what all these little characters mean because you've got the couple different monsters and a bunch of different traps, and then how to balance out the objectives for this round versus the long-term objective for the whole game. Like there's a little bit at the beginning that I remember the very first time playing it going like, okay, I have to like take all this in. But then it is relatively light. Like it just feels like one of those weeknight games that you could bust out and you could just be like, okay, we're going to draft real quick, we're going to play this, and it takes 30 minutes.
I don't want to put words in Z Garcia's mouth, but this seems like one of those things where he would say like, oh, and you have this type of scoring, and this type of scoring, and paths, and this collection, and you know what I mean? It feels, at first, I agree, like it sounds like there's going to be too many types of things. And then you start playing it, and you're like, oh, okay, I got it all. You know what I mean? But one card has multiple implications. I put this card here, continues my path, that's a good thing. Ooh, it doesn't have this type of monster on it, and my blueprint card says I want that type of monster in this space. Oh, but it's in the market, so I could buy it later, which is more important than if I put the wrong stone or dirt type card down, because you can't fix that in the market phase later. You know what I mean? Like there's certain things that are fixable that aren't, but as soon as you start playing, it all just really starts going very smoothly.
And I think that the fact that you only build one row at a time, you can't place those cards anywhere, really narrows that down. So you have very quick decisions, because even though you have a lot you're thinking about with all those many objectives and ways to get points, you're like, okay, I have one of 4 options. Where am I going to put, the card that I want?
Yeah, I think the 45 to 60 minutes that the box says is stretching the upper limits for once. You can get this done in half an hour, easy.
Yeah.
Even I mean, the number of players doesn't matter too much. Interestingly enough, 2 players changes the game up a bit. I don't know if you've all played 2 players.
Yeah, we
where
did.
you draft one and throw one away.
Yeah, you like hate draft at the beginning on purpose.
Definitely look.
Yeah.
I look over there and like, you're not getting that card. Okay, next.
Right. You want blobs? You don't get blobs.
But that doesn't happen in multiplayer. I don't really care. In multiplayer, I'm taking the best card for me and passing him. But in 2-player, I take the best card for me and then make sure you don't get a good card. And that's how that works.
It's interesting though, in a multiplayer game, you're looking at all the objectives and you're like, okay, I might not get to pick an objective for a while, so I have to be okay with any of the objectives. And I guess you still do that in a 2-player game.
I only work towards the objectives after I've taken one. But
oh yeah.
Well, I guess. I like to concentrate on the paths because it just makes me feel good to have everything. If you can get everything connected, that's what
16
points.
points twice, yeah. Entrance and exit, yeah.
Although those objective cards are not objectives, we're talking about the whatever the cards are on the side there. They can be some tremendous amount of points. I didn't realize how many some of them could go up to. You can get a lot of points, and if you get 2 that are similar, you can really
double up on that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's what comes with so I look at this game and I think there's not a lot of replayability for me. But then I think that dynamic of taking the money and then how to spend it and how to get that initiative order, I think that becomes more of a metagame, or it can become more of a metagame. And so that I think would create the replayability for me, the actual like laying down the cards on the grid, maybe less, but really shooting for that initiative, being like, okay, this is a really good objective I want to be able to get this round. How am I going to make this happen?
Well, it's nice because like a lot of card drafting games, people say, well, what's the interaction? Well, I might take a card that I hand you or whatever. But there is, because of the market phase. I really want to have the most gold so I can pick first out of these things in the market because I really need that. Or do I only purchase like a small little edition and then after everyone starts spending past me, I just bow out. I waste 11 gold, but I grab an objective card I really need. That's good. There is some real tension. There's some real palpable, okay, if I do this, what's Wendy's response going to be to it? That matters in this game.
Well, and I think that if I wanted to get really into it, I could look and see, okay, how much income am I getting this round versus the things that I want to buy? How much will they cost so that I can get my money down just enough so that I can bow out easily? Like, there's some interesting stuff you could really dig into, or you could be like, hey, I'm playing a card here, I'm playing a card here, I'm playing a card here, done.
I look at it sort of as a filler type game. It's not that light, but it's not particularly heavy either. My one negative about gameplay is I find parts of it are too easy, particularly the card you get there. That's your architect card or whatever it's called. Blueprint card, right?
Yeah.
It's not hard to do that, right? I wish it was harder, because this game has a lot of similarities to Role Player. In a way, Role Player also had put these colored dice in these spots. Do this to get points. That similarity is like very striking to me, because you can see it's the same kind of thing. And I thought a lot of things, yes, to get perfect stuff, it feels like the point differentials are in how well you do something, as opposed to, oh, I can't do this. No, you can make the paths in a dungeon. Although in one game, I made a path all the way up to the exit, and if I hadn't drawn the right card at the last, I would have lost 16 points. Because nothing would have been connected to my exit. You know, I had it all. I had everything. I was trying to get the 32 points from that. But I'm saying for the most part, you get a card, I can get some of this done. I'm going to get points from it. And I think that's a positive thing. I wish it was maybe a little bit tighter. That's my only minor complaint.
I don't know if it was tighter, though, how that would work with the luck of the draw. Because a lot of times the draft, you're just like, well,
sure.
Do any of these even work? You know, I mean, you get no chests, and that's one of the requirements in your blueprint. You're just like, okay, well, I'll have to find a chest later.
It doesn't make me dislike the game. I just thought that's a minor thing. I still enjoy it. I'm giving it a 7. It's a game, like I said, I don't know what I was expecting. I thought it was another roll and write, actually, and it's not. And I really like the aesthetic of putting that dungeon together. The 16 cards, I feel very good. It's easy to look at. Like I said, it plays very quickly. The scoring takes a good chunk of the game time, really. That's how fast the game is to me. So it's a 7 for me.
Okay.
This one I'm giving an 8, because it's like you said, it's kind of a filler time frame of a game. You know what I mean? It's pretty quick. It is, I think, especially with 2 players, you can play ridiculously fast. But even with 4, I think it maxes out at 5 players, right?
Yeah.
The longest part is going to be that market phase, maybe. And so, because it fits in that 30 to 45 minute time range, I think it packs a decent amount of punch for an approachable, neat little game. I think that maybe those objectives, sometimes the score can feel swingy on them. You know, I scored 8 points on one of the objectives and like 15 on the others. And the last game, Wendy scored like 17 on all 3 of hers. I was like, well, there goes that. Like, I can't, have a different...
Yeah, I think that's the crux of the game, of those cards.
Yeah, I think so, right? So those might feel a little bit strong, but still, this does a lot with what I consider a little great production. It's an 8 for me.
Okay, this is a 7 for me, just like you, Tom. I think that it's got some good solid elements to it. It's great for that weeknight filler game of, hey, I want to play something, but I don't want it super long. I do enjoy figuring out paths and patterns. I just really enjoy that in games. I didn't feel like this it didn't give me enough to give it like an excellence rating or to get a higher rating, because it's very lucky. It just depends on what ends up in the draft for that round. You don't even go through all the cards, especially in a 2-player game. I don't even know if you go through half the cards. Yeah, so there's a ton left there. But other than the stepping aside that luck, I do think that the market is very interesting, and the fact that you can go back and you can add stuff, and then those objectives are really fascinating. And I like that there's a lot of different ways you can get points, and you can't do everything, so you're trying to maximize as much as you can. So I think that is a fun game. Give it a 7.
Well, there you go, folks. That's Stonespine Architects. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Wendy Yee.
And I'm Chris Yee.
Have fun building your dungeon.